I listened to every #1 song in Billboard Hot 100 history. In a 2-month period, I listened to every single song to hit #1 in Billboard Hot 100 history, from 1958 to the present day. That's a total of 1,180 songs. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about my journey listening to every single one of them. Here we go. Before we get into it though, we're very close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, which is my goal for the channel. So please subscribe if you enjoy the video. So the first thing I gotta say is this was not my idea. I'm in a Discord server with a few of my friends where we listen to a lot of music, especially like new albums and stuff. And one day, a couple people from that server started listening to every #1 song. So I asked to join, and the rest is history. Over the next 2 months, me, Wipeout Jack, and Clyde would listen to every song to hit #1 and rate it on a scale of 1 to 100, as well as leaving comments and quips on the songs for other people to see. And I mean, it was just a great experience. But let's get into the music itself.
I used to play around with hearts, hasten.
The first song to hit #1 in Billboard Hot 100 history was Poor Little Fool by Ricky Nelson. And honestly, that was a pretty nice song. I mean, it's just a classic oldies type song, but it has this really cool guitar lick that it does. But after that, it frankly got a little bit boring. I mean, most of the songs to hit #1 were just middle-of-the-road 50s teen pop songs. I mean, there were obviously some highlights like Mac the Knife, Sleepwalk, Come Softly to Me, and, you guessed it, the Chipmunk song, but there just wasn't that much variety. I thought that it would get better once we got into the 1960s, but it actually got worse.
And picture me there.
1960 was my worst rated year of music of the entire Billboard era. And the reason for this is that most songs from this year were either obnoxious gimmick songs or just plain boring, and there wasn't really much in between. I mean, this is the year of Mr. Custer and Teen Angel. I mean, what more can I say? The last song to hit #1 that year is an Elvis song where halfway through the song he just yaps for a minute and a half straight.
You lonesome tonight. You know, someone said...
I'm not even joking. But thankfully, after 1960, the music started to get a lot better. Starting with... I mean, I think that there's a solid case that Runaway by Dale Shannon is one of the definitive songs of the early 60s. I mean, not only was it a massive song that still holds up to this day as a banger, but it's also the first use of a synthesizer in pop music. But Runaway was just the first of many classics from the early 60s era. Blue Moon, Run Around Sue, Hit the Road Jack, The Lion Sleeps Tonight, Duke of Earl, Breaking Up Is Hard to Do, Sherry, Monster Mash, I Will Follow Him, all hit #1 in this golden age of brill building and Motown music. But also, around that time, there was a fair amount of instrumental music to hit #1. My personal favorite of which is Acker Bilk's Stranger on the Shore, solely because of the album cover on Spotify. But by the end of 1963, it appeared that the brill building music had really run its course, and everything started to sound the same again. There needed to be a change in 60s music, and that brings us to the first #1 song of 1964.
I've loved you since heaven knows when.
Wait, not that. I mean the second #1 song of 1964. I mean, I cannot overstate how much the Beatles changed music in the 1960s. The British guys burst onto the scene in 1964 with 3 #1 songs in a row, and just marked a massive shift in pop music as a whole. I mean, I used to be one of those the Beatles are overrated guys, but now I understand how influential they were on music as a whole. I think I get it now. And following them were a bunch of rock or rock-adjacent songs, like House of the Rising Sun, I Get Around, Pretty Woman, Mr. Tambourine Man. I mean, I could keep on going, but you get the gist. All of these songs hit number one in the mid-60s. This was also the golden age for Motown music. I mean, the Supremes, the Temptations, and the Four Tops were all constantly hitting number one at that time. So in general, this was a really cool time to be listening to music. But then we get into music of the late 60s. And just as the culture of that time was marked by opposition to the Vietnam War and psychedelia, the music was as well. I mean, this started in 1965 with Barry McGuire's Eve of Destruction, which is a legitimately terrifying protest song.
You don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.
I can't overstate how jarring it was to hear a song like this in between songs like I Got You Babe and Hang On Sloopy. But the late 60s had the more psychedelic era of the Beatles, as well as artists such as the Rolling Stones and the Doors hitting number one. But surprisingly, this wasn't the most dominant music of that era.
Sugar, oh honey, honey.
The Brill Building music of the early 60s turned into the sunshine pop of the late 60s, which its popularity at the time is now viewed as a form of escapism from the turbulence of the Vietnam War era. I mean, Daydream Believer, Windy, Crimson and Clover, I mean, they all just feel overly happy, which is contrasting the overall culture of the time. And I'm not saying that these songs are bad. I love all the songs I mentioned, except Windy. And the mix of these sunshine pop groups and these psychedelic rock bands really created an interesting contrast on the Billboard number ones in general. And that cultural battle really defined the late 60s, between a la-di-la everything is okay attitude and a no, things aren't okay attitude. But then, we got into the 70s. And if you couldn't tell by my best list, the 70s are my favorite era for pop music. So going into it, I was expecting the decade to have some of my highest ratings for years. But here's the thing about that. The 70s has a lot of good music, but the 70s also has a lot of bad music. Like for every Maggie May to boost the average rating of a year, there's a Go Away Little Girl to make it go down. And because of that, most of the yearly averages for the decades weren't over 70. But as for the music itself, I don't know if it's just me, but I felt a stark shift between the music of 1969 and 1970. Whereas 69 was the aforementioned jungle of sunshine pop and psychedelic rock, 70s felt a lot more normal. Maybe it's just because I listened to that kind of music a lot, but a lot of the stuff in the early 70s felt super familiar. The Jackson 5 had some hits, the Beatles had just broken up, so we were getting solo hits from all of their members. It just felt like 70s pop music instantly got its identity as soon as the ball dropped in 1970. And there are obviously a variety of classics from the early 70s, but if you want to hear me talk about them, I highly recommend you watch my best list. But honestly, I think you could split the 70s in two when it comes to music. The pre-disco era and the disco era. And it's really cool because you can see disco start to mold in the early 60s with funk music. Like there are songs like Love Train by the OJs where it's like, is this song a disco song? But disco as we know it now didn't really come to popularity until mid-1974 by songs that coincidentally both start with the word rock. Rock Your Baby and Rock the Boat both hit number one back to back, and they're both absolutely disco. But it wasn't until 76, 77 where everything was disco. And obviously, we still had number ones from pop and rock groups like Paul Simon and the Eagles, but the majority of the music from 1975 to 1979 was just all for the dance clubs. In my opinion, the most interesting year from the 70s was in 1978, where the entire pop music scene was taken over by the soundtracks from two movies, Grease and Saturday Night Fever. Shouts to John Travolta. 5 songs from that movie hit number one, but even that understates the cultural impact that those movies had. But 1979 is when music started to get really good. And you could actually pinpoint the exact moment where music went from just disco to a more broad 80s sound. And that song is this one. Heart of Glass is basically Runaway for 80s music, even though it was released in 79. It was basically the first song where I'm like, wow, this is something different. Not to mention the other bangers from this year. I Will Survive, Tragedy. Hey guys, it's me in Post here. I keep on listing a bunch of songs from 1979, but I think it's just better for me to show you a big picture of every song that hit number one. They're all just so good. All great songs just from that year, and it was the first year to have an average score above 70, at 75.26. Even though 1979 wasn't the start of the 80s, I think it was the start of 80s music. Speaking of which, in my opinion, the early 80s were the best overall years for pop music. I mean, it was just an incredible mix. You had your pop rock music by Hall & Oates and Men at Work. It was the start of Michael Jackson's resurgence with Thriller. Rock bands such as Pink Floyd and Queen hit number one. New wave bands such as The Human League and The Police topped the charts. And in general, there was just an insane amount of diversity and uniqueness in the charts at the time. But most importantly, they were all good. And it just got better. When I was previewing the music of the 80s, I was shocked at the music of 1983. Like, look at how stacked this music is. I thought for sure that it would be my highest rated year of all time. But it wasn't. That was 1984. '84 had an average score of 81, and it really is just everything that is great about 80s music. You have your classic 80s pop songs like Karma Chameleon and Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. You got your rock crossovers like Jump and The Reflex. This is the year that Madonna made her debut with Like a Virgin. And of course, Prince. Oh yeah, I just realized I can't play his music because it's copyrighted. Just pretend Let's Go Crazy is playing right now. Diddly beloved! But yeah, the music of the early 80s was so good. But then 1985 came around. And with it, the song that killed pop music. So Do They Know It's Christmas? That Christmas song where all the British new wave artists come together and go, yeah, if you didn't know, this song was a charity single to raise funds for those in Ethiopia. And not only is it a very good song, but it was very successful. It raised £8 million for Ethiopia within a year. And it was cool to see all these British artists team up just to make a great song that also raised the money for charity. So then, the Americans decided to copy their idea and also make a song that raised money for charity. Note how I didn't say great though. Yeah, this thing sucks in a lot of different ways. Let's first talk about the length. Band-Aid's song is just under 4 minutes, which is great because it allows all the artists to shine, but it's also nice and concise. We Are the World is not that way. It is 7 minutes long. And it's not like it changes up or adds variety to justify that runtime, it's just the same exact hook over and over again, with different artists on different verses. And let's get to that. Because look, a lot of the singers are fine. Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, MJ, Kenny Rogers, they're all okay. But then there's some people where it's like, this charity single, I'm gonna make it all about me.
We are the world. We are the children.
Sorry Bruce, I absolutely love you, but I have to dog you for this. The worst offender though, by far, is Cyndi Lauper. Like, do I even need to say anything here? Like, she's just taking this charity song and making it all about how much she can strain her voice. But yeah, this song sucks. It's basically the 80s equivalent of that 2020 Imagine video. But it was basically one of the first times where it's like, don't buy this song because it's good. Buy it because it's a good cause. And that justified people to buy this poorly produced, overly long, overly egocentric song. And guess what? It worked. It is the 8th best-selling single of all time, with over 20 million sales. But the reason why I think this song killed pop music, at least 80s pop music, is that it basically told record companies, you don't have to make good music, you just have to make music that sells. And that's what gradually started happening. I mean, 1985 itself has some bangers, like Take On Me, Shout, and Money for Nothing. But as we go into the later 80s, this music just became monotonous. And you can see it in my chart of average ratings for years. Most of the stuff was just so boring or so derivative of other stuff at the time. And the worst part is that the American public, I guess, couldn't decide what they wanted to listen to because the years between 1986 and 1989 all had 30 songs per year. And you know, there are obviously some highlights from those years, like Walk Like an Egyptian, Sweet Child of Mine, and The Look, but it was just a grueling time to be listening to the number ones. And that unfortunately continued into the early 90s.
Strike a pose.
Now coming into this, the 1990s was the decade of music that I was least familiar with, so I was interested to see what the music was going to be. And I mean, I don't know what I expected. The pop music from 1990 might as well just be 80s music, because it just feels like an extension of the late 80s as opposed to having its own identity. The only thing that's worth mentioning is that the first rap song to hit number one in 1990. Do you want to guess what it is?
Check out the hook while my DJ revolves it.
Yeah, of course it's Ice Ice Baby. But it wasn't until 91, 92 where it really started to feel 90s. And unlike the prior decades, you could classify most of the years in the 90s as 90s music. And you could just sum up 90s music in just a few characteristics. Both Mariah Carey and Janet Jackson were huge, racking up tons of number one hits during the time. R&B groups and artists such as Boyz II Men and R. Kelly also were huge. Teen pop artists finally made a return after they were sorely missed for 15 years. And there are a lot of artists from the 70s and 80s that made returns to the charts by making ballads for nostalgia bait. Bryan Adams, Rod Stewart, Sting, Elton John, George Michael all hit number one with honestly forgettable songs.
Check it out.
And although pop music didn't evolve that much during the 90s, rap music did. Especially in the late 90s, artists like Biggie, Tupac, Will Smith, and Diddy all hit number one. The most unique year of the decade was 1999. It just felt like an entirely new type of music, with songs like Baby One More Time, Livin' La Vida Loca, and Smooth all hitting number one. It just felt like a great harbinger for what was to come in the 2000s. But would 2000 live up to the hype?
It's gonna be me.
No, it wouldn't. It was the second worst year of Billboard number one history, just behind 1960. And it's not that the music was bad, it just wasn't good. It was all mediocre, same sounding, late 90s, just slog. But thankfully, the music of the 2000s picked up from there. But then, once we reached 2002, club music took over.
Go, 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 go.
Pretty much every song from 2002 to 2005 had that 2000s club feel. 50 Cent and Usher were huge. Okay, I'm looking at this music video in post, and I don't know why it took me so long, but I finally figured out why 50 Cent did that in the Super Bowl halftime show. Quite literally, the only type of music to hit number one outside of these club jams were American Idol winners. Yeah, for every year between 2002 and 2006, the song from the contestant to win American Idol would hit number one on the Billboard Hot 100. That just goes to show how big that show was at its peak. But also, to be honest, those songs weren't too good. Anyways, 2006 marked a transition where this club music became more general listening for the public.
Ain't another woman that can take your spotlight.
This was the year that Justin Timberlake's big album came out, it was Rihanna's first number one hit, and it was the year of the sad white boy songs. And it's the first year where I actually remembered the songs that hit number one at the time. But this trend towards more accessible club music continued into the late 2000s, with synthesizers making a big comeback. Now colloquially referred to as recession pop, because of the major world event happening at the time. That's where we had songs from Rihanna, Black Eyed Peas, Lady Gaga, just upbeat stuff. And this continued into the early 2010s.
Wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy.
Now the thing with the 2010s is from here on out, these are all songs that I have listened to a lot growing up. With that being said, the 2010s started in the same vein as 2009, with artists such as Kesha and Katy Perry being huge at that time, with their upbeat hits. But Bruno Mars and Adele also started their careers here. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but the music of 2012 just seems very millennial coded.
Tonight, we are
I mean, you can see that millennial humor, especially in the music videos. This was the year of We Are Young, Somebody That I Used to Know, and even We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together and Sexy and I Know It has that millennial kind of humor to it. This era also marked the rise of the internet. This was because, starting in 2013, Billboard started taking YouTube and streaming numbers into account. Thrift Shop and Harlem Shake hit number 1 in 2013. They were very internet inspired. But in general, the early 2010s was very similar to the 70s, where there were a lot of good songs, but there were a lot of bad songs. Like, for every Can't Hold Us, we had a Blurred Lines. But then a shift happened in the tone of the music. There are many people who say that Royals caused this shift, but I argue that it's The Hills. Because it's like really the first song that set off this more, I don't know how to describe it, but like dark sort of music. Like, I mean, if you look at the hits of 2016, you'll know what I mean. It just felt a lot less happy than the songs of the early 2010s. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it was just a pretty significant shift in pop music that defined the rest of the decade. This was the era of Justin Bieber's return, Ed Sheeran, and of course Drake. And honestly, at this time, I wasn't paying too much attention to pop music. I just thought it had gotten a little bit boring. And that's why I think 2019 was such a fantastic year for pop music.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road.
There was just so much unique stuff happening. I mean, Old Town Road was hitting number 1, it was Billie Eilish's breakout, Post Malone's album dropped, it was just a lot of cool stuff happening that year. And it was interesting to see how that momentum would carry into the 2020s. 2020 was hands down the most unique year for pop music in history. I mean, it was the most unique year in our lifetimes with the COVID pandemic, so it makes sense that the music reflected that. And it was a very online year for the Billboard charts, as many people would start to boost their songs to hit number 1. The Billboard charts really became a game then. So we had a lot of songs by artists that had large fandoms, such as Nicki Minaj and BTS, hit number 1. This was also the golden age for remixes, where they would slap another artist on a song to try to boost its credibility, which worked to great success that year. That's why we have songs that hit number 1 that have no presence in the cultural conversation these days, such as Trolls, Life Goes On, and Savage Love. And although this continued a bit into 2021, this was the year that the 2020s got its own identity in terms of music, with Olivia Rodrigo dropping her breakout album Sour. And since then, the 2020s has been defined by this more digital type of overall pop music. Online marketing is more important than ever, and songs that hit number 1 reflect that. Because of this, we had more independent artists such as Steve Lacy, Glass Animals, and Zach Bryan hit number 1, but also, pop stars, both new and old, could hit number 1, such as Lady Gaga, Olivia Rodrigo, and of course, Taylor Swift. Rap is also still big, obviously, and country is seeing a real rise with Morgan Wallen tallying a bunch of hits. In general, the pop charts these days are as diverse as they've ever been, and it's really fascinating to follow this kind of music. This journey of listening to every song to hit Billboard number 1 was a great view into the history of pop music as a whole, and the songs and artists that have been most influential in that time. If you want my thoughts of what my favorite and least favorite number 1 songs are, you could watch my other videos in this series. But for now, I'm going to be doing a Q&A, because there are a lot of questions that people in the comments have asked that I would like to answer. So by far, the topic that has gotten the most comments has been my lack of inclusion of Disco Duck. And here's the thing, I like Disco Duck. It's really one of those things where it's so stupid that it loops back to being funny, and it's also really catchy. But at the same time, I understand why so many people hate it. It's just repulsive. But I'm a sucker for it. Something else that got mentioned a lot is my Minecraft gameplay. Why is my B-roll Minecraft footage? And that's a good question that actually has a pretty complicated answer. Now, the Minecraft footage is used as B-roll where a lot of people would use like a face cam. But the thing is, I don't script my videos. Everything that I say in my recordings comes off the top of my head from my research and listening experience. The reason I do this is because I feel like it's a lot more authentic. I see videos where people are like holding microphones, and I saw that it's like an attempt to appear more authentic. And I'm like, if you want to be authentic, just be authentic. Don't appear to be authentic. But the downside of that is that I often flub my lines and stuff like that. So I have to make a lot of cuts to repeat my lines or whatever. And if I were to use my face cam, those cuts would really appear choppy and distracting to the viewer. So I figured that the best B-roll to use would be gameplay from the only video game that I'm mildly good at, which is Bed Wars. But honestly, I might want to switch that up soon. One of the reasons for this is that my channel has reached a far wider audience than I had imagined. While my videos are targeted towards Gen Z, because I am a part of Gen Z, there are a lot of members of older generations who are also watching my video, which I think is awesome. But the Minecraft gameplay can be distracting and disorienting, which I completely understand. The second reason is I don't really enjoy playing Bed Wars that much. I would spend hours and hours trying to get a win in solo Bed Wars just for B-roll. The second game played in this video, I lost because I jumped into the void at the end. And I'm like, there's got to be a better option than that. So let me know in the comments if you have any ideas. I'm gonna keep on trying to brainstorm things to use instead. Also, I got 10 comments about this, and yes, Ben is a rat, not a dog. That was a flub. I'm sorry. And finally, what's next? That's a good question, because honestly, there's so many places I want to go and videos I want to make. I want to make stuff about music, movies, and even some speedrunning stuff. Your support of the channel has really motivated me to keep on doing this, and I really appreciate it. And I want to thank you, as well as Plaid and Wipeout Jack for listening to these songs along with me, Rox who gave me advice on how to make this video more interesting. There's a reason this didn't come out until 2 months after the previous videos. The first version was just so boring that I lost all motivation. And obviously I have to thank Todd in the Shadows, Sean Faye Wolf, The Double Agent, and Mooks99 for being such great music YouTubers who have influenced and inspired me to make my own. But that's pretty much it from me on this 3-part series. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.